So I say the dollar on the deathbed, the end of U.S. currency hegemony. I hope y'all can hear me. Am I talking too fast? All right, cool. That's good to know. All right. All right. So the dollar is still 65% of the world's currency reserves, but it's dropping. The world's major central banks are liquidating the dollar right now. The Russians are, the Chinese, the Europeans. I mean, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Middle Eastern banks are doing it. They're not going to tell you that in the Wall Street Journal. You go on the websites of these people's own countries, they'll say, oh yeah, we're selling the dollar. Finance ministers coming out and saying, we think the dollar's finished. We do not want a part of it. You know, in March 2007, the Chinese finance minister just said, we're going to diversify into gold, into euros, into yen, into our own currency. They're scared because they see it coming down and they say, well, we don't want to hold all this worthless paper. They know it's fiat. They know it's based on nothing. It's a fictitious thing of our imagination. We all just play the game. This money is worth something. It's not. It's a joke. But because such of their biggest assets are U.S. dollars, they need to start switching that over. Now, if they do it too fast, the whole thing comes down. They lose anyway. Slowly, they think, the Chinese think they can bring it down slowly too. The globalists, the Anglo-Americans think they can bring it down slowly. That's why you see them working together. You see why the policy coordinates. Because on the one hand, there's this war against Russia and China, right? This confrontation that's brewing. On the other hand, they're working together economically. Now, why? Nobody wants the dollar to collapse too fast. Let's sort of do it at the right pace, you know, medium pace, right? And just wipe you out, sort of slow torture. You know, it's like the Chinese water torture. That's what it is with the death of the dollar. The euro is up 50% since 2002. It's just a fact. Just hit a 2-year high against the dollar. Again, when we talk about U.S. as the bankrupt, doubling down gambler, that's what this whole country is. We're a drunken, degenerate gambler that decided to double down. $3 trillion missing from the Pentagon. $2.3 trillion in 1 year. It was like another trillion. Who knows how much is really missing? I mean, this is just what they found. $3 trillion. Dov Zakheim. Dov Zakheim, just a little side note I didn't put in here, he's now working at a company called Booz Allen Hamilton. B-O-O-Z Allen Hamilton. You want to understand who's got a lot of control over this shadow government right now? Just Google it. Booz Allen Hamilton. That's all I'll say. The current account deficit is over $800 billion a year. This means the U.S. needs roughly $70 billion in foreign investment per month to cover its current trade deficit. This is over $2 billion a day. It's a bankrupt. If we were a credit card consumer, they would have foreclosed on everything right now. And they are. I mean, they're buying up our assets. The Chinese have announced that they're going to take their currency and start buying up our stock market, buying up our assets. They're buying up the highways. They're buying up the rivers. They're buying up the forests and the ports. It's a fire sale. Your banks are being sold out. Your property is being sold out. Your IRA is being stolen. Your 401k is being wiped out. It's a fire sale. Welcome to their game. And they're expecting you not to notice. Just play dumb. Just be a good person. Just keep watching TV. Just take that Paxil and that Zoloft. Go back to sleep, stupid. Right? You know, the official debt of this country is supposedly $9 trillion. That's what they put. You know, when Paul O'Neill resigned, he said there's like $4 or $5 trillion off the books. That's, you know, okay. But when you look at the long-term debt, major mainstream news articles say long-term debt, 45 to 75 trillion. That's more than assets in this country. There is more long-term debt than all the wealth in the country. Okay? It's over. We've been sold out. We were sold out a long time ago. There's not a lot of coming back from this. The question is, how slow is the collapse going to happen? And if we look at the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, CAFR, we've been looted. There was actually a lot more money than they told us. That money got stolen. The government keeps 2 sets of books. They have the books for you, and then they have the CAFR. So they've looted the state budgets, the local budgets, and the federal budgets with the CAFR. Look into that stuff. There was a lot more money that they stole. I mean, this is a heist on a level bank robbers couldn't dream of, you know? That's what these people are. They're the bank producers and the bank robbers at the same time. What a break. The debt house of cards is beginning to collapse. It's called the debt industrial complex. Kevin Phillips, and I know he's got a little war with Tarpley, not really, but the debt industrial complex is what he calls it, and that's what we have is a system that's now built on debt, built on credit. The country doesn't make anything anymore. It's all debt. Everyone's in debt. The country's in debt. You're in debt. I'm in debt. Everybody's in debt. Collapse of the $1 trillion subprime loan market is an indication of where we're going. That the bubble is collapsing. The Fed put trillions of dollars into the system of credit free-for-all, which was pumped into the real estate market, where they say, no money down, nothing for the first 2 years. And the value of houses keep going up. We'll give you a second mortgage, third mortgage, keep leveraging, keep leveraging. And now the payments go up, nobody can make those payments. So you've seen all the subprime loan mortgage lenders are going belly up. They're going to have to get bailed out probably, and this is a crisis for the bankers right now. The mortgage-backed security market is tanking. What's MBS, right? That's where they take 1,000 or 10,000 people with a subprime housing loan and package them into a bond. And then they sell that bond. And so when you're paying off your debt, you're actually paying some banker who bought a bond of your issue. Okay? And that's how this works. So it's leveraged. Now, where is it leveraged? Into the hedge funds. That is $1.5 trillion in unregulated leverage speculation. This is 100 to 1, sometimes 500 to 1. And if you want to see how this affects the market, having all these 8 to 10,000 hedge funds, 1.5 trillion unregulated, look at the blowout of the $6 billion Amaranth Fund in Connecticut. This fund blew out. Natural gas prices tanked from like $9 to $4.50. One hedge fund blew out. What do you think is going to happen when 5 or 10 blow out? Or 15 or 20 or 100 or 500 who were all playing this market thinking it was going to keep going up and up and up? It's not going to be pretty. Now, what's leveraged on top of that? It gets worse. I'm sorry. The derivatives market, 400 to 600 trillion in parasitic leverage side bets and debt. Leverage 500, 600 to 1. You want to talk about the casino mentality of these parasitic bankers. This is what's going on. So you see how it is the house of cards is built up. The debt industrial complex, the credit complex, mortgage-backed securities on top of that, which go into hedge funds, which go into derivatives, and when the bottom falls out, you fall out. I fall out and the dollar falls out. U.S. dollar is doomed by inflation. They have now instituted the Plunge Protection Team, the PPT. The heads of the Treasury, the SEC, and Federal Reserve are working to prop up the market with hundreds of billions of dollars. You know, there was a report about Iraq that they just printed off billions in pallets and sent them on pallets to Iraq. Just lots of unregulated money. This is kind of a window into the way the Fed operates. They just run a line of money when they want to, and then they give it to third parties, select third parties, and put it into the system. So why hasn't the market collapsed? It is collapsing, and the PPT keeps running it up. And then the people that short sell the market have to cover their short bets, and that creates a false rally. And this has been going on for a while. The PPT has been activated. The Fed's M3 money supply, no longer public as of March 2006. Why? Because they're running a lot of money off those sheets. They're printing a lot of money right now. We're looking at a major hyperinflationary spiral. The yen carry trade. How has this system been financed? I talked about the Japanese influence. The yen carry trade, where Japanese interest rates were so low that people would basically take free money and put it into these speculative bets, is coming to an end. Because as of early 2007, Japan is raising their interest rates, just a month or two ago. And both China and Japan will need to raise interest rates to curb inflation in their own country. You might have seen the Chinese stock market fell like 9% in one day. Yeah, it's out of control. It's been growing too fast. They need to raise interest rates. They will preserve themselves. And in doing so, they will damage the dollar. And it's just this teetering balance. And they're trying so hard to make it fall slowly. But you see, it's a delicate ballet. And there's so many countervailing interests. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. U.S. debt is Japan's biggest asset. So they have an interest in trying to control this thing and manage it as it collapses. China has trillions of dollars in U.S. reserves and says they're diversifying, as I mentioned. And what's happening? The International Monetary Fund and the BIS, Bank of International Settlements that I talked about, they're demanding further dollar depreciation. I mean, just recently the IMF said the dollar needs to be devalued by a lot more. They're telling you you're just going to take your bank account. That's like coming in and robbing you. You get $100 in your bank account, they're just taking money out of your bank account. Your dollar is being depreciated. That means they are robbing you, literally taking your money away. Because now your $100 doesn't mean what it used to. Average citizen is sunk in debt. Real wages have not risen since 1970, and that's related to the destruction of the gold standard and the Bretton Woods Agreement that was done by George Shultz, Paul Volcker, and those bankers there. I'm going to talk about that. That enters the free-floating dollar, because Webster makes a good point. All currency is fiat, isn't it? All currency is fiat. This is real fiat, though. There's no backing to it now. It's unregulated. This means that the Fed can just run off money. There's no gold backing it up. They'll just run off a pallet of it, send it to Iraq. Credit card debt carried by the average American, over $8,000. These are old statistics. This is in 2002. I imagine it's far higher now. Total consumer credit over $2 trillion. Again, these are old statistics. Recent article, personal savings are at a 74-year low in this country. Negative rate of savings, worse than at the height of the Great Depression. That's mainstream. Type in 74-year low personal savings. Okay, it'll come up, I promise. And that means that the gap between rich and poor is higher than the Gilded Age. I mean, the wealthy are getting wealthier. The middle class is being evaporated, coming into the working class, and the working class is being sold straight into poverty and homelessness. It's a drive down for the vast majority of this population. So let's see the versions of what's going on here. You see the CEO versus minimum wage chart here. 1965, the average CEO was earning 51 times the minimum wage. Today it's 821 times. Who's benefiting off the system? Did you benefit that much? Have your earnings gone up? No, no, no. Your earnings were stagnant since 1970. If you've been alive that long, I haven't. But look at CEO wages. You begin to see who's profiting off of this system. The rich keep getting richer. This is a chart from the Associated Press and the Census Bureau. Again, these are just the official numbers, but you can see that the top have increased their wealth by more than 75%, and the bottom by, they say 20%. I don't even believe that they've increased it by 20%. I think those numbers on the bottom are gerrymandered, but you see the gap is getting bigger. Where does this all lead? Where does this dollar collapse lead? It leads right to the North American Union. And you say, well, that seems kind of weird. Those things don't seem connected, do they? They do. They are connected. The North American Union is connected because of an individual named Robert Pastor. Look this guy up, okay? Start to study this guy. You want to see who the really evil people are. Right there, that face. He is calling for the Amero. This is not a conspiracy. Literally, openly in his book, saying, the Amero, the dollar's going to collapse. Okay? That's given. And the US dollar, Canadian dollar, and Mexican peso will be merged into the Amero. So as the dollar comes down, where are they going to send you? They got to have a backup plan, right? You think the globalists and these elite are going to be caught sitting on their hands? No, no, no. They've got a plan. The Amero. So let me pull this up here. Is Pastor calling for a new 9/11? Yeah. He said, so I'm not advocating or encouraging or wanting a crisis. I'm only saying that in order to take important initiatives, sometimes one manner in which this occurs is when there's a crisis to which leaders need to respond. He goes on, he says, the 9/11 crisis made Canada and the U.S. redefine the protection of their borders. I guess make them more open, right? The debt crisis in Mexico has forced the government to adapt a new economic model. The crises oblige the governments to make difficult decisions. Crises create solutions, problem, reaction, solution. Remember that Hegelian dialectic. He goes on, this is the most poignant part. He says, what I'm saying is that a crisis is an event which can force democratic governments to make difficult decisions, like those that will be required to create a North American community. That means destroying this country, taking the CFR's agenda, because Pastor works for the CFR. This was a CFR task force he's a part of. And he's saying, it's not that I want another 9/11 crisis, but having a crisis would force decisions that might not otherwise get made. Oh, he doesn't want it, but if it comes, we'll probably get that North American Union. This is akin to the PNAC Pearl Harbor comments. This is the new Pearl Harbor comments, saying, we're going to get you in a North American Union. We don't want a crisis, but if one happens, we could get that North American Union pretty easy, couldn't we? Robert Pastor pushing for the SPP. It is a CFR agenda. Let me flesh this out a little bit. Judicial Watch recently got the documents from Northern Command, which said that NORTHCOM, which is the branch that controls the military in this country, if there's martial law, if we have a terror attack tomorrow, and they declare martial law, and they say, you need to get in the camp,